So welcome everybody. We didn't get a chance to talk about this morning. And I know, Carl, you weren't there this morning, and I have the recording of this morning, the full intro for you for later.
It'll be great.
But great, I'll send it to you right afterwards. The one thing the conversation got, as those of you who were there know, into a little of legal education, and I had kind of cut short the whole concept of why Quinnipiac and why we felt this was such a good. I mean, Kim and I and Jen Brown Jen and I both knew Kim from before and had used her textbooks, so we were familiar with her. So I won't go into that whole story. That'll be part of for those of you who want to join us through the teaching of integrative law, you'll hear the whole story. But why Jen Brown was supportive when Kim and I last year said we would really like to have our Center on Dispute Resolution support the integrative law movement more than we were just by having the first clinic in integrative law. And so this quote is from our dean, and some of you maybe have never heard of our dean before, but she was a mover and a shaker in the ADR movement. She started our Center on Dispute Resolution, and she became our dean about 10 years ago. And one of her themes is educating the whole lawyer to understand and serve the whole client. And so this gives you a little sense of why she was so excited at the idea of us doing more with the integrative law movement, because she feels it really is the way. Oh, there's Desiree.
Bless her heart.
I know. Coming up on midnight. But as you can see, she said, as we've been doing at Quinnipiac, we have long been trying to educate client-centered whole lawyers for themselves or whole while they work with clients in a more holistic way. So I'm not going to read this to you. You can read it yourselves. But to the extent that she believes that to be a great lawyer, you really need to understand not just the technical legal problem, but the emotional, social, financial, political, and other contexts in which clients find themselves, which is the whole way we teach all of our clinics, and the way we teach most of our, if not all of our lawyering courses, is to understand that context. Then to the extent you understand now what integrative law is, you can see it was indeed a great fit. So although she couldn't be with us to welcome you herself, I thought we would share this quote, and we'll make it available to anybody who's interested. It may already be on our website, our integrative law website. But I will stop that, and I thought I had, Desiree is still joining. Okay. I thought we had admitted her. But
I did, and
yep.
It didn't come in.
Yep. So she's still connecting. Oop, there's Sylvia. So back to you, Kim.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do we're going to do the introductions, and then we're going to do a little bit of review. Right. Sorry. Okay. If you're on the phone, then if you have the opportunity to come in just for quick introduction, that would be great. And we can see you, your lovely faces.
Because there's at least one person, a couple people who weren't here. First, I'll introduce myself, as I didn't change my name here, I realized. But I am I'm on the faculty at Quinnipiac, and I am the co-director of the Center on Dispute Resolution, and with Kim decided to launch the Integrative Law Project at Quinnipiac. There's a lot more I can say about myself, but it's not really relevant right now. But Kim, I don't know if, do you want to say just a few words? I know Sylvia knows you, but I know a few people also entered late this morning. Not very late, but late enough that they maybe didn't hear your introduction. And then we'll find out who else is here.
I'm one of those overachiever people who likes to wear a lot of hats. So not only do I teach I'm a senior fellow at the Center on Dispute Resolution at Quinnipiac, but I also wrote or contributed to several books by the American Bar Association. I do work in South Africa on a curriculum on integrative law, and I am a lawyer in North Carolina, a coach, a bunch of stuff. And until recently, for 15 years, I was a global nomad, traveling around the world, knitting together the people who are in this movement and identify as integrative lawyer. I just settled down in February. So that's me. And what we did this morning was actually kind of fun. And that was, we talked about the weather outside and the weather inside. So if you can just take like 30 seconds and just introduce yourself really briefly, and then say, where are you? What's the weather outside? And what is your internal weather? So like you might be having a stormy day, or it might, be calm and clear. In my place this morning, it was very pleasantly blue skies. Now we are overcast. On the outside and on the inside, I am still bright and shiny. So,
okay.
Who's next?
I'll go. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get on my laptop. I'm at home and we have the worst, I don't know what's going on. So I'm on my phone. So I may be a little tough. I'm not quite sure how to do Zoom on the phone, but I'm Kate Maxim. I am actually an adjunct professor at Quinnipiac and enjoyed this morning's session tremendously because it will fit in with my lifestyle, which is a probate court judge. We do a fair amount of work with families, and it's a great job. And then I think this particular type of lawyering would be very beneficial to me and to people that work with me. And I am actually, it's a little overcast here, but I've had a great day and I'm still having a great day. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Kate, I hope you get to go to Rhiannon Thomas's program on dying.
Yes, I have scheduled that. I'm going to have to do it on the way home from a meeting. I'm not going to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Galen Shrine. I am also a lawyer. I was doing injury, then civil rights, then briefly criminal, and sort of moving into more restorative, integrative things, working a lot with families who are grieving. And the weather outside it's sort of post-rain, very green here in Colorado, which is where I am. And the weather inside's similar. It feels like it's kind of that after an intense thunderstorm, but things are green and sprouting and the water's sort of sinking into the soil.
Thanks, Galen. Who's next? Should I pick on someone?
I can go next, so I don't need to pick on someone. I'm Anthony. I'm an attorney. I commented this in the other session. Attorney, researcher, guest professor, and author on law and innovation. Loved the first session. I believe the program is really beneficial to everyone, and I hope to integrate this whenever possible in all of my practice, research, and studies. Today here in São Paulo, Brazil, it is cold. Earlier during the first session, it was sunny, but now it is cold, a bit of foggy. And in the inside, I feel well. I feel in one of those days where the sun is shining brightly midday. Everything is fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Who's next?
I'll go next. I'm Sylvia
Thanks,
Clute. I'm in Richmond, Virginia on a beautiful sunny spring day. And inside I am glowing because this morning I taught my 6th class of unitive justice in a prison, and it's going better than than we had even dreamed possible. Thank you.
That's good. Thanks, Sylvia.
I'll step in next. So my name is Sarah Jade. I am a candidate attorney currently here in South Africa, Durban. I work at a corporate law firm here, so I've been doing a lot of corporate law. I've done some labor law, so I've obviously had doubles in arbitrations, and I'm currently actually doing a course in mediation. I've met Sheena, and Sheena's just brought this whole new perspective. And honestly, I feel like I have met a group of people who feel exactly the same as how I have felt sitting in a law firm for the last 2 years. I've been really struggling internally. My mental health's kind of taken a dive. So I'm just so excited to be meeting all you wonderful people who seem to think very similarly to how I do. Obviously, I'm here in Durban, so it's winter. It's cold for Durban people. Inside, I was feeling a little bit foggier earlier, maybe a little bit lost in the fog. But after today's morning session, I definitely feel like there's definitely a rainbow. There's a rainbow outside.
Thank you.
Okay, I can go next. I'm Carl Pabetto, and I spent my career as an environmental lawyer. I teach environmental law at Quinnipiac Law School, and actually, I taught environmental law at Quinnipiac Law School before it was Quinnipiac Law School, when it was the University of Bridgeport. And I am really pleased also. I see that Tony Zell is on the schedule, and have been pleased to have been working for the past 3 years with the Earth Law Center. And I'm on the weather. I'm in Maryland, and we're having a beautiful, kind of partly cloudy, sunny day on the outside, and it's really breezy, nice breeze here on the inside. But I'm glad to be participating in this.
Welcome. David? Dad? Are you with us?
So it's kind of hard to toggle it on and off from mute.
Okay, where are you?
I'm just driving a truck, so I don't want to be pressing the phone. But it's very nice here and very beautiful.
Okay,
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. All right, did we get everybody? Well, thank you, everybody, for taking the time to let us know who you are. And I'm going to go ahead and put on the screen. I think there it goes. So those of you who were with us this morning recognize this. If you're not, this is just kind of a little review. Like these are the things that integrative lawyers, at least as the community, some of us individually, are concerned about. And as you can see, there are a whole bunch of things, and substantive legal knowledge is down there, and analytical thinking is down there, and professional identity and so forth. But there's a whole bunch of other things, interconnectedness with the earth, acknowledging grief, healthy habits, time management, holding complexity. And we have this whole garden that we referred to this morning of, new things growing up. And so we've got this paradigm shift happening, and what else should we be learning? Like, the world is changing. The law has been designed, I say, to change slowly, especially common law, where we're always looking at precedent, and the world is changing very, very quickly. So we're having to kind of run to keep up while the legal system is saying, wait, too fast. So what are the things we should be learning? So these are some of the things that I think are sort of today's skills. Flexibility, learning to adapt, granting dignity, being able to look for a win-win, connecting, having a broad vision. This picture is a little bit fun because when you look at that, what is the first thing you see? Somebody. Anybody? Most lawyers look at it and read the sign and miss the entire vista. It's like, oh, yeah, it's love and past.
Well, I just came back from a beautiful trip to the mountains, so I didn't even notice the sign
Good for you.
because I've retrained myself in the last week to look to the skies and the peaks and the yeah. But it's good to know where it is, though.
You know, IQ is important, but EQ is even more so. Creativity and design, we've kind of touched on that this morning. You know, that's something that has been coming more and more into the law. We're not going to have a session this time on comic contracts or design thinking, but I want to presence it because it's a big deal. We have new tools for negotiating and decision making. This brightly colored game board looking thing is actually a tool for contract negotiations. The dolls are for constellations that we mentioned earlier. You know, there are lots of different things that we can bring in as tools that we didn't learn in law school. There have been many studies over the years about what it takes to be an effective lawyer. And this is a slide from Susan Dykoff's work on so-called soft skills. And so it's an old study, 2008. Hastings and Berkeley were looking at what is an effective lawyer, and they came up with these 8 umbrella categories. And if you'll notice that many of these are more of the so-called soft skills, what we prefer to call essential skills that are more the people kinds of skills than the kinds of things that people in law school focus on. In fact, Susan did a study of looking from 1988 to 2008, and many different studies came together with that interpersonal skills were some of the most important skills. The intrapersonal and the interpersonal skills were the most important for being an effective lawyer. And then Jordan Furlong actually said that lawyer competence is the demonstrated ability of a lawyer to meet high standards of integrity, proficiency, client service, civility, and wellness in the delivery of legal services. So he looks at the competent lawyer, someone who has integrity, proficiency, which law school does focus on, client service, civility, and wellness. And it's kind of interesting to look at this, and you won't have a chance to look at it too carefully, I think, but it's what attorneys think are important versus what clients think are important. And lawyers think that legal expertise, the knowledge of the law, that's the most important thing. Clients actually think that being in communication and keeping them informed and updated, answering your email and your calls, that's the most important thing. And most of the, at least it used to be true, I haven't checked it lately, but it used to be true that most complaints against lawyers were for not communicating. It wasn't about having a mistake in their legal expertise, it was for not communicating. So the ideas that lawyers have about what they need to know and what clients expect and want are very different, and the clients are really looking at a whole different skill set than the lawyers are. So we're going to be looking today in the area of skills. We're going to be focusing on what I call the integrity, purpose, and values part of the integrative law movement. So just so you know, Rhiannon Thomas, who will be here later in the Institute, actually created these cards, which are values cards, and these are just pictures of the values cards, and they are they're a tool for helping you figure out what your values are. Now we can't do the cards on the Zoom, but we're gonna work a little bit with what are your values, and if you choose to do so, you can create a touchstone that we're going to share with everybody. So there's a lot of work in the corporate world. You've probably have not been able to escape knowing that what people are looking at is like, what is your why? And, like your why for being. And so in the context of what we're talking about is going to be your purpose, your vision, your mission, and your values. And it really matters for you to know your why in terms of quality of life. And there's several studies that look at it. I mean, I like to think of it as a compass, that if you know your why, you can actually make better decisions. If you are clear about what are your values, then the decisions sometimes just kind of fall into place. It actually is less stressful because you have that compass and you know which direction you're going. So you have better well-being. You can be more confident. You can say no with confidence in the same way that you can say yes with confidence. When you have positive impact, you actually are more effective and maybe even work harder. And this strengthening your backbone is like being able to be firm in, yes, I do that. No, I don't do that. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And be able to communicate that in a way that is really, really clear. And most people who can communicate that are seen as very confident and clear, and people want to actually do business with them. And then there actually are some studies that purposeful companies, which are also called conscious capitalism companies, actually make more money because they are aligned. So there is no right way to have values. You can have core values that are peace, love, and understanding, or safety and courage and whatever else would go with that, like responsibility, honesty, so forth. Your values are your values, and they're already running you, but you just may not be as clear about them. So how do you figure out what your values are? So this is where we're gonna start working together. Those of you who are off camera should be prepared to do some paired sharing in a little bit. So if we'll see what technically the best way to do that is for you. But the first question I always ask when I'm figuring out my values is, what do I love? What do I really love? So, for example, I really love nature. I really love to be in nature. What's that about? How about somebody else? What do you love?
I love family.
Family. Okay.
I have a huge family. My husband has a huge family, and the best times are when we're all together.
Okay. Family. And do you know what it is about family that you love?
I think it's the connectedness that we have, that at all different levels. I have nieces and nephews now who are getting married and having children, and it's that intergenerational connections that we have, that both my parents and my husband's parents gave us. And in fact, that's why I love my job, because I work in the probate court and we work with families who are probably at the worst points in their life. So it's very important throughout my life, actually.
Well, and you're kind of jumping ahead there, Kate, because it's perfect that you are, because you've actually picked a job that aligns with your values.
That's right.
Because I know from a friend of mine who's a probate lawyer that it's not always pleasant. People are at their worst times, but if you're committed to family and you're there to help a family, and that's a value for you, then it's easier. It's less stressful than if you were committed to being at the beach and being alone, your job would not be particularly pleasant.
That's why I like it's going to work. It doesn't feel like work because it's that connectedness to people and families is important. You're right. I didn't even think of it that way ever, but
yeah, now that you have, it might actually start showing up in other places too. Who else? What do you love? Somebody else.
I love, I don't know, there are many things I love, Kim. I love innovation. I love inclusion. I love social justice. I believe that this is what led me to think law outside the box and start searching for other things. So this, like since law college, I started researching on innovation. This led me like to research, write, and then to teach classes, and then to the masters. It was like one thing leading to the other, you know?
Okay. All right. So you've jumped into Kate's water of seeing your values and how they affect you already. That's perfect. How about one more person? What do you love?
I love the feeling of accomplishment that comes with helping somebody. I mean, from my standpoint, it's the personal feeling of accomplishment, but from their standpoint, it's helping, and particularly students, helping them get through a course and get, do their their writing assignment. So that's what I love, the feeling of that.
Accomplishment. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Oops. We just skipped. What breaks your heart? Think about a commercial on TV that breaks your heart. I don't know. I think of, like the telephone commercials that just like, reach in and grab your heart and smack it around a little bit. Or those commercials with where they play on your emotions with the dogs. Anthony, I hope you don't have to see those. They're just heartbreaking. But what breaks your heart?
Oh no, I think it's inevitable, Kim. I just had my heart broken by two people and I'm only 28 years old. So it's part of the human experience, I guess.
Yeah, and what breaks your heart is related to what you value. If you value connection and somebody disconnects from you, then it breaks your heart.
And
Anybody?
I think that it is difficult, if I may, that I think that as humans, we have natural needs for empathy, for connection, for doing good things together. And then we are in an environment, the legal one, that does not always foster or favors this kind of behavior and of connection. Instead, at least speaking of Brazil, what we see in the legal sector is that people are filled with egos and trying to build their own castles and empires. And sometimes they start to even establish connection, find common ground, do something together. It is hard.
So if you're looking for connection, the natural place, the first place that most people will go is not to court. What do you rant about? What do you get really angry about? I have different political beliefs than everybody I grew up with. And I still am on social media with them. And every once in a while, I will lose my mind and they'll post something and I'll try to engage with them. And I know that I'm never going to change their mind. And they don't listen to me as somebody who actually has any sense of intelligence or anything because I don't agree with them. And yet I still rant about it. What do you rant about? What are you really angry about?
Right now, homophobia. I'm very aware of it because of Pride Month and people I love who are trying to stay positive. we're in a blue state, so they feel relatively safe. But I have a relative who has decided they're not going to come visit us in Florida anymore because they're afraid to bring their gender neutral teenager into that state and risk their safety. Anyway, that is right now, that's what would take me away immediately.
And what is the value that you think might be attached to that?
My value is sort of fairness, inclusion, love and support, no matter who you are, freedom. I mean, I think it's actually a cluster.
Yeah. So just knowing what you get angry about helps you to kind of sort that out. And then what makes you really angry? The angriest I get, I actually was doing a little research asking people where they've seen me get angry. And they see me get angry about social justice and the telephone company. Because the customer service is so bad. And so I've been exploring it. What is it about bad customer service that really offends me? And I think it has something to do with that fairness and inclusion piece. That, if you're being fair and including everybody, there's like a dignity and respect that goes with that. And the phone company doesn't have that for me or anyone else. And then that triggers the social justice part of me where I think, what about people who don't have the resources I have, who has to deal with this all the time? So is there anybody else who gets angry about something? We all get angry. Come on.
I'm going to just play off of what Professor Cass just said. We have a few judges in our system who won't do their jobs fully. In other words, they may be reluctant to grant a name change for somebody who is doing a gender identity change or gender change, and will avoid that. And that drives me crazy because it's their job and they won't do it. I'm happy to step in and do it so that it happens. But that, I have to say, I probably ranted about that the most this year. That makes me really angry.
And so I'm thinking about, you said that you value family because of the connection. And so it could be that it's connection, or it could be because they're shirking their duty. And so you can inquire into that for yourself. Like, it may be both. It may be a cluster of things.
Yeah, and you've got me thinking for sure.
Kim, if I may add, speaking of Brazil, we have commonly a complaint about public officers in general, like judges and everyone. And despite we are really, we have a huge income concentration, inequality, it is chronicle because we are colonized and so on, yada, yada. But time to time, we have like a public prosecutor or a judge or someone who earns a high salary paid by the state complaining that they earn a low salary. And it makes me nervous because recently in the last week, we had a public prosecutor saying, oh my God, I wonder how the public prosecutors who are starting their career will survive because I only earn like, I don't know, 35,000 Brazilian reais, and it can only cover my purse and my clothing. And translating to the US, so you can have a comparison basis, it will be like $7,000. I know that for the US, this isn't much, but for Brazil, it is a really high salary, amongst the top salaries in the country, because it is 35,000 Brazilian reais per month, not per year. And she comes and says unabashedly that this is a low salary, while we have like half of the population facing hunger somehow, facing some level of food insecurity. And also we have 75% of our population who live actually with a maximum of 1,200 Brazilian reais. So I have someone who earns 35,000 complaining she earns a low salary, and I have the whole population living with 1,200 reais. And like, she should serve the people because she's part of the judiciary. So I don't know how it is in the US, but here in Brazil, we have an elite, if I can put it this way, in the judiciary who sometimes seems to want being served by the system instead of serving the people through the system. And this makes me nervous. I'm sorry for ranting, but this came to my mind.
See, so I hear service and fairness and justice, I think. Did I miss something? So like that's how we find our values. So we pay attention to ourselves and what we react to. So we're just going to take like 2 minutes, just, take in what we were just thinking about and just jot down some notes because we're going to work with it. And I'm going to give you some more information about values, but I want you to have those feelings up and then I'll go on. So just make 2 minutes. Jot down notes.
Were you going to show us the next slide or not?
Not yet.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, well, you're right. I do. Yes, there are some of the values that you might consider. Sorry, I forgot that I was showing it twice. These are just some values, and there may be a word like, for example, integrity can mean honesty, or it can mean wholeness. Harmony can be harmony with music or with people. And if English is not your mother tongue, please feel free to find a word in your own language that really speaks to you deeply. Just pick out like 4 or 5 of them. Just another minute. I'm going to give you some homework if you want that will give you more time to work with this, but we're just going to need an introduction, sort of a superficial introduction now. Okay. So we're going to do a breakout. And I'll come back and show this slide. And this is where those of you who are not in good places might want to, like maybe you want to swap phone numbers with somebody and actually just call them or WhatsApp them or something like this to have a conversation. We're going to have you in a pair. And the first person is going to be the speaker, and the other person is going to be the listener, who is also the timekeeper. And the speaker is going to talk about your values and why they're important to you. So the conversation we just had about what you love and what you ran about and all that also has stories, like, why are you so upset about that? Who are your heroes that reflect your values? Like, what is it about these values that is so important to you? We're going to do that for 5 full minutes. So you're going to you're going to talk about your values, why they're important to you, tell a story, or talk about your heroes. If you think you're finished, sit in silence and really just continue to reflect, because you might think of something else. And some people need the silence to actually process. And so you stay in your silence and wait out the entire 5 minutes. Listeners, do not engage in the conversation. This is not you trying to get them to say anything. You're not going to comment. You may ask an occasional question if you're just not understanding, but if they're being clear, there's no obligation for you to say a word. And while they're talking, jot down a few ideas, and then you can ask questions after their 5 minutes. So listen to, like, for example, I had this exercise with someone, and I was talking about my mother and my story, and the person said, "It sounds to me like you value kindness, but I haven't heard you say that." And when I was talking about my mother, it never occurred to me that kindness is sort of like her badge of honor. She is the kindest person I know, and I never really figured out that was a word that had meaning for me, because somebody else listened to it and heard, not necessarily even that I didn't say the word, but what I was describing was kindness. So the listener you're going to get to know the speaker from their stories, which are about their values. And then you're going to, after the first person speaks, you're going to debrief. And you're going to debrief for 5 minutes. And that's when you can ask more questions and really flesh it out a little bit. If you did observe something, or if you have questions, or if you want to hear more. Now, you can say kindness to the person, and they could say, I hear that it sounded like that, but I think it's really more like love. So you don't have to accept their word, but that word that they're giving you is there for opportunity to reflect. And then we're going to take 1 full minute in silence to just kind of let it all in. And then you're gonna go to the next person. You're going to trade places. So the person who was the speaker becomes the listener and the timekeeper. Does that all make sense? Yeah, it's not a conversation. It's an opportunity to really hold space.
So it sounds like we're really talking about 21 minutes, give or take a little bit.
Yeah, we'll give you 20.
5, then 5, then 1 minute to transition, then 5, then 5.
Yeah, and then we'll have the minute to come back. So
okay,
we're going to give you a total of about 22 minutes.
So my question is, when we're doing the groups, David, do you think you can do this given that you're driving?
Well, if you have an odd number, you don't need to include me. But if you have an even number and you want to include me, then include me in the include me whatever role you think is best.
Yeah. Would you be able to concentrate and talk and listen? Are you able to pull over or be safe while you're doing it. You do make a nice even number here. So
happy to do it if I'm an even number. Definitely could listen. Also, could speak. Whatever you want, I'll do my best to make it happen.
okay, all right, then we'll include you, and maybe is there anybody else who's going to have trouble both speaking and listening? Not that I heard that David said he didn't, but I just want
speaking may be easier just because I don't have to hold the phone to speak, but I can listen and speak.
Okay, good. So I'm going to assume everybody else can do it, and we're going to do 3 breakout rooms.
And the magic of Zoom will match you with the person who has something that you need to hear or they need to hear from you.
I didn't open the rooms yet. Kim, I'm not putting you in.
Okay. If you run into problems in your group, then you can come back to the main room and we'll take care of it. If somebody drops off or something.
Okay.
I don't know
Right.
if it's load shedding or not, Sarah J.
Yeah, I'm hoping Sarah Jade has enough power. All right.
I should have, yes.
I spent a lot of time in South Africa. I know load shedding.
It's got worse the past few weeks. But anyway.
All right.
Oh, it put Carl and Kate together. Sarah Jade, you're with Anthony.
Okay.
So I actually didn't do that. Let me see.
So how was it? Did you discover anything about yourself or the other?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like what?
I'm going to mute you, Carl, because I had you.
What did you learn about your values? What are your values? First draft. Really rough draft.
At the risk of, I don't want to speak for Kate, but I think we have very similar values. Concern about, people and family and concern for the environment. And
Okay.
And we both like the Steelers, right? Still, Carl? Still like the Steelers?
that's right. We had a connection to Pittsburgh and we had a connection to Connecticut.
Sarah Jade and Anthony, did you learn something about each other or about yourself?
I think we also seem to share quite similar values. Social justice and equality seem to come up quite a bit. I think what kind of frustrates both of us is inequality and seeing unfairness prevail. So I feel like that's something that we found that we had in common, possibly because of the political climates maybe in our country or specifically in South Africa at the moment. It's something that I see on a daily basis. So something that definitely motivates me to be a better person and a better lawyer so that I can do something about that.
Yes, and here in Brazil it is quite similar. And it seems that Sarah and I had experiences with the corporate law practice world that helped us to realize that maybe we should help the weaker side instead of strengthening the system that currently oppresses the people, if I can put it this way. So we are all trying to make our law practice serve the people somehow.
Okay. Sylvia and David?
So we had a lot of difficulty with the Shenandoah Valley because he's driving. And so it was sort of in and out. So we each shared 4 values that were important to each of us. And the names of them didn't overlap. I think that there's an underlying inherent desire for goodness in what we said, but we did have a lot of difficulty communicating because of the communication, the connection.
Oh, that's unfortunate, but I'm glad you got something out of it.
Right.
Some connection.
Yeah. Galen, did you identify some values?
Yeah, we had authenticity and honesty, and humility and service were big ones.
Okay. So you will sometimes find that that you're in a place where you're going to find similar values, partly because people who do this work are going to share some similar values, and partly because they're human values. And then we can also kind of play off of each other. Like you'll have a conversation with somebody and say, oh yeah, I remember social justice is really important to me. And somebody else will have a conversation and you'll say, well, the flowers and the beauty of nature and, and all that kind of stuff. And so, but if you have the conversation several times, pretty soon you get firmer in what you want to say are your top values. Some people say, well, I've got 50 top values. Well, that's not really a top value kind of thing. We like to get it down to about 5. I'm going to go back and share screen again. I'm just going to invite you to ponder the idea of like, if you actually arranged your life around your values, what would it be like? Like, what changes would you need to make? If what you love was actually what was driving you, like, how would your life change in quality and in what you're actually doing? And if there's one change that you would be able to make. So those are just to ponder now. We're not going to discuss them because I want to show you a couple of things about that. And this is just to show you sometimes you need to adjust a little bit. Like you'll see that you're, like we talked about. If you have family as a value, then when you start paying attention to that, you might want to adjust how you spend your time just a little bit. And, you may be doing fantastically, but there may be a neglected value, and you just, can kind of, the older ones of us remember how used to have static in our radio dials. And sometimes you can clear out that static. I'll mention that Mark Lawyers in Sydney, Australia is a law firm based on happiness. So they arranged their entire law firm around happiness. And this was probably more than 15 years ago. The first thing they did is they gave up the billable hour because it didn't make them happy. And they rearranged, this is their office space. Their website is designed by them, and they have pictures that they like. It's worth finding them. If we had unlimited time, we'd watch a video of them talking about their law firm. It's just amazing. This is my touchstone. So as lawyers, we think a lot about words. But in my case, I like images too. And so this is my touchstone. I've done this work several times. I try to renew my touchstone every year. It looks different every year. This is my November one. The previous one was orange. and it had a lot of sort of geometric pieces to it. This time I created a touchstone that's about growing and growing new things. And then shortly after I created this, I actually decided to start a law practice. So it's, it's like, which comes first? I wasn't thinking of starting a law practice until I kind of immersed myself in the idea of growing some things. So that's what one touchstone looks like. This is a law firm agreement, and it has their touchstone here over to the left, their purpose, vision, mission. Their values are in the column there. And this is one of the conscious contracts that also has the other parts of the conscious contract in it. And so this is their guiding document for their law firm. And you can see it's a lot of words and not many images, but the colors and the fonts and everything actually say a lot about who they are. This is a contract that we did in one of our clinics for a client. Now, their colors on their website are these colors, and this is their actual partnership agreement, which they have allowed us to share. And so they have their touchstone in several parts. They have their values, they have their purpose, they have their vision, really lovely language, pictures of them to illustrate it. This is their partnership agreement that they share with the world about who they are as a partnership. Their mission, they said in service of their mission, this is what they're going to do. They're democratizing the creative arts in order for people to see the value and impact they have on individual lives and on society as a whole. They provide security for those who have a passion for the arts so they can pursue their goal. And they incorporate modes of promotion that are normally found in traditional business models in order to popularize the arts. And then they just call them their reminders. So when they're having a conversation, about what they're doing in their partnership or whatever, a business meeting, these are reminders that vulnerability is the foundation for trust, that excessive rigidity impedes creative growth. So these are parts of the conscious contracts process, since you've just seen the contracts, which are the mindset shift, the touchstone. The next time I have the skill set, we're actually going to work on the operating manual for me, which is how you actually work. And it's a great thing to share with people. Then how you resolve conflict, the action plan, which is what we usually call the contract, and the design and drafting. And so this is an element of that whole process, but it's really the process. The reason it's an element is it's the cornerstone of the integrative law movement, is living according to your values. And I have a workbook I call the Touchstone Workbook that is available if you want to play. So all of you are invited to do a touchstone, and that's why I wanted you to see the images, because you can go to canva.com. It's a free site, and it's actually fairly easy to learn. Or you can write words, like what would express you. I have one student who actually drew a tree, and then the branches of the tree became the pieces of her touchstone. We had a student who, and I've asked them to use them, but they haven't gotten back to me yet, who took a picture of herself in nature, and then there's a sidebar of who she is and what she stands for, and it's a poster in her room to remind her who she is. So the artistic possibilities are amazing, and for some people, it's just about their art is their prose. And so we have a show and tell coming up next week. What is that? Thursday at 11 o'clock U.S. Eastern Time. Yes, the 15th. And if you want to play and create your own touchstone, then let me know and I'll give you some more material that you can work on. You don't need the material. You don't need it hanging around, bugging you because you haven't done it. But if you're committed to doing it, I'll give you some more material. You can create a touchstone and then you can show up, and we've invited everybody to come and see. And so I want to know who wants to play, and if you if you're playing, what kind of support I might be able to provide between now and then.